For more than 50 years, we had in place what was called the Wire Act. The Wire Act had a prohibition on gambling. It's why you couldn't go down to your local bookie or go down to Western Union, start wiring money and betting on who knows what. That was in place until Christmas Eve, the day before Christmas Eve in 2011. And with no input from the public or notice to Congress, a single unelected lawyer in the Office of Legal Counsel, the Department of Justice, released a 13-page memo reversing 50 years of Department of Justice precedent and an understanding that Congress had that the Wire Act was in place to prohibit the use of wires to engage in gambling. The memo that was introduced declared that the Federal Wire Act applied only to sports betting and not to all forms of betting. This reverses what the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, the Carter administration, and others had interpreted. Now, certainly with the growth and the expansion and difference of the Internet is making on all of our lives, there was this interpretation that didn't come through Congress. It didn't get the proper vetting. There was not the recourse. The point that I've made in sponsoring a piece of legislation that would take us back to Restoring America's Wire Act is that if you want to see a change, if you like a different public policy, if you want to see things done differently, our framers have put forward a process, and that is you introduce a bill, you fight for it, and you try to get it passed into law, passed through the House, passed through the Senate, and signed by the President of the United States. We don't simply make up laws by one attorney at the Department of Justice down in the bowels there at the Department of Justice. We don't erase laws. We shouldn't be creating laws. That's the whole point of this piece of legislation that I had. Nevertheless, with this OLC opinion in place, it has created quite a stir, a lot of confusion, and potentially an awful lot of problems. The reversal that the OLC put forward was contrary to a plain reading of the statute, the intent of Congress in passing the law, and the longstanding position of the Criminal Division at the Justice Department. And the result is now anything connected to the Internet, desktops, laptops, tablets, smartphones, no matter your age, potentially becoming a casino. I got a problem with that. I think the country has a problem with that. And it certainly needs vetting and discussion. And again, you want to make a change? Come to Congress, introduce a bill, and make a change. But don't just change the law based on an OLC opinion. In fact, I would argue that the law actually has this confusion by this OLC memo is causing a lot of problems. I don't believe that the memo has the force of law, but there are some that are placing their bets based on this interpretation. To those individuals, those corporations, to those, you're creating an awful lot of liability for yourself and potential prosecution. The other challenge that we face is that the Internet doesn't have neat walls around it. It's not like a physical facility that we can say, all right, it works just right here. For anybody to argue that the Internet can be walled off and used in just these certain boundaries, it's a joke. Come on. Nobody with a straight face is going to come before the American people and say, well, the Internet, it's just for the people of Nevada, or it's just for the people of Rhode Island. You kidding me? You give me a good 18-year-olds in about 36 hours and you can hack through just about anything. So let's not pretend that the Internet is special for just certain people. It's one of the big moral challenges that we have, but it's also one of the challenges that we have to do in making good public policy. I believe the piece of legislation that I introduced, Restoring America's Wire Act, is a states' rights bill. There are states, Utah and Hawaii in particular, that have no gaming. Right or wrong, whether you like it or not, the history of the state of Utah, the history of Hawaii, is such that we have elected to have no gaming. We don't have a lottery. We have no Indian gaming. We don't have any gaming of any sort. I believe that's the purview of the individual state. If Nevada wants to have it, they've made that choice. Got a lot of Utahns that will travel to Las Vegas or to Wendover, for instance, and go gambling. That's their choice. But what I don't want is to have gaming coming to Provo, Utah, and Salt Lake City. That's our choice. That's our state's right to say, no, you're not going to be gaming in the state of Utah. That's our decision. And that is the state's right that by pushing gaming online, we're having to deal with. There is a concern that the OLC memo threatens the right of people in certain states to decide not to have gambling within their borders. And it's not just an issue for Utah and Hawaii. It is for other states as well. A bipartisan group of 16 state attorneys general wrote a letter to the leaders of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees in 2014 urging Congress to restore the decades-long interpretation of the Wire Act. They wrote in part, quote, "The impact of the opinion in which effect opens the door to the spread of Internet gaming will have a potential significant impact on state and local law enforcement," end quote. They went on later to say, quote, "Given the inherently interstate nature of Internet gambling transactions, we anticipate that it will become increasingly difficult to effectively regulate such conduct as additional jurisdictions consider legalizing Internet gambling," end quote. Federal law enforcement officials have also expressed concerns of online gaming. For example, in 2013, the FBI stated, quote, "Online casinos are vulnerable to a wide array of criminal schemes." They went on to say, "and many provide more opportunities for criminals to launder illicit proceeds with increased anonymity," end quote. I would note a Newsweek article that came out. Department of Justice settlements regarding online poker are second only to financial institutions. Fines and settlements in excess of, I believe the specific number cited in Newsweek was $1,027,511,000. I'm getting the number wrong, but it's over $1 billion. It's got a lot of digits to it. It shows what a significant problem the Department of Justice is currently having with it. Given the increased access and reliance on technology, Congress must do its job and understand the implications of this OLC opinion. Let's also understand that you're not going to be able to distinguish if it's a 7-year-old kid or somebody who's of legal age. The Internet that is used is not going to be able to distinguish the age of that person. When you go to a physical facility, you can pretty much get a guess, and some people are carded and checked for their ages. We are raising a generation of children who are extremely comfortable with technology. They think of nothing of picking up a smartphone or tablet, entering the information about their life into it. You grow up in a generation where these games, I think they're great, they're fun, where they're playing for coins and they're spending a lot of money on Candy Crush and others. They don't necessarily know the difference between real dollars and fake dollars, real coins and fake dollars, or fake coins. The speed at which online casinos operate, coupled with their accessibility, availability, and anonymity, make it clear we need to understand more about this problem. The Congress must ensure the law is clear and that some unnamed bureaucrat down in the bowel of the Department of Justice isn't making these important decisions. This is one person's opinion, but you can tell by the wide attendance at this hearing today, it is affecting a lot of people. There was no consultation with federal law enforcement officials or with state or local law enforcement officials charged with enforcing the vast majority of the criminal laws. No opportunity for public comment. Congress is not made aware of what the Department of Justice was doing. The OLC basically just decided, based on the placement, literally, of a single comma, that the law didn't mean what everybody thought it meant for more than 50 years. The consequences were not considered. Our goal at this hearing is to discuss what the Department of Counsel failed to do. We hear from federal, state, and local law enforcement officials who have expressed concerns with online gaming, including its potential to be used for money laundering, terrorist financing, fraud, and other criminal activity. In doing so, we'll respect the 10th Amendment and examine how the borderless nature of the Internet makes it difficult, if not impossible, for states to effectively regulate online gaming, protect their states and their. I have taken an excessive amount of time. Appreciate the indulgence. I will now recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cummings, for his statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.